Think about this for a second. What if there was a library that didn't just have books, but had the actual blueprints for reality itself? A place where every single timeline, every dimension, every possible state of consciousness was all cataloged and ready for you to access. It's a pretty wild idea, right? And it's right at the heart of what we're going to explore today. Hey, welcome. Today we're taking a tour of something called the Enochian Matrix Library System. It's this incredibly ambitious way of thinking about and organizing esoteric knowledge. So let's grab our library cards and head inside. So, first things first, what is this library? I mean, you got to forget everything you know about dusty shelves and physical books. We're talking about a conceptual library, a system for cataloging the very fabric of existence. So what does that actually mean? Well, the idea here is that this system acts like a kind of universal Dewey Decimal System, but for reality itself. It's a map that you can use to navigate a super interconnected, multidimensional universe. The whole thing is really built on a few core beliefs. First, the idea that reality isn't just what we see, it's multidimensional, and absolutely everything is connected. It really puts a high value on ancient wisdom, but it insists on organizing it with some incredible precision. And this is the crucial part. It's not just theory. It's meant to be a practical guide that uses consciousness itself as the key to unlock the whole shebang. All right, let's step inside the library's main stacks. We're going to take a look at the foundational texts that make up its core collections. This is where the really old, really fundamental knowledge is kept. The first and oldest collection is called the Primordial Texts. Now, this section supposedly contains knowledge that predates all of recorded history, stuff that deals with the very origins of creation. We're talking foundational documents, like the Enochian tablets and keys, the ones famously transcribed by the 16th century occultists John Dee and Edward Kelly, who claimed they were getting a language directly from angels. And the kind of knowledge this collection is said to hold is just staggering. For example, it supposedly has Sumerian star maps that are older than any known records and, get this, they detail celestial bodies we can't even see from Earth. It's a perfect example of the kind of lost, totally extraordinary wisdom this library is supposed to contain. Okay, let's wander over to the next wings and see how this all builds. Here we find the Hermetic and Kabbalistic archives. These collections are all about the principles of correspondence, that famous Hermetic idea of as above, so below, which basically says that the patterns of the cosmos are reflected right here in our own lives.
And the stuff in here is just as mind-bending. The forest of trees, for example, it isn't just one Kabbalistic tree of life, but all these different versions of it from across parallel realities. We see variants of the famous Emerald Tablet, but with commentaries from what the source calls non-terrestrial consciousness streams, basically intelligences from beyond Earth. And then there are actual protocols for accessing Ein Sof, the Kabbalistic idea of that limitless, uncreated void before creation ever happened.
Now, the final core collection is super interesting because it tries to bridge the gap between all that Western esotericism and Eastern philosophy. The idea here is to find the universal truths that pop up in different traditions, suggesting that maybe they're all pointing to the same underlying reality. And this table here shows just how deep that connection might go, drawing direct lines between two traditions that seem totally different. It claims there are phonetic links between ancient Sanskrit and the angelical language of Enochian magic. It even maps out how Enochian forces might be able to activate the Vedic chakra system. It's a really fascinating attempt at a unified theory of spirituality. Okay, so we've seen the core texts. Now let's head to the map room. This part of the library isn't organized by subject, but by the fundamental dimensions of reality itself.
So in this system, reality is charted across three main categories. You've got the temporal axis library, which is all about time, how it's not linear, causality, and universal memory. Then there's the spatial geometry collection, which details the sacred geometric blueprints that literally form reality. And finally, you have the consciousness matrices, which catalog all these different forms of intelligence and how to navigate the inner world of the mind.
Let's just focus for a second on one of the most compelling ideas from that temporal library, the Akashic Record. This is the concept of a universal repository, kind of like a cosmic hard drive that has a record of every single event, thought, and action that has ever happened. Ever. But here's the real kicker. In this system, the Akashic Record isn't just some passive archive you can't touch. It's a searchable database. The framework describes access nodes and indexing systems that are designed for you to efficiently pull out information. This whole idea just transforms a mystical concept into something that feels almost like a systematic, spiritual technology.
So we've seen the books and we've seen the maps. Now we get to what might be the most intriguing part of the library, the workshop. This is where all that theoretical knowledge gets turned into practical, hands-on techniques.
For instance, check out something called timeline viewing. The system breaks it down into these clear steps. First, you identify key decision points in a life. Then, you analyze the most likely futures that branch out from those points. And then, and this is the really wild part, you can even consult versions of yourself from alternate timelines to get new perspectives.
And the techniques just get even more advanced from there, moving into ideas like quantum outcome collapsing. This kind of borrows from quantum theory, suggesting that just like observing particles can affect them, your focused consciousness can influence probabilities, helping you select a desired future from a whole sea of possibilities.
Next up, there's soul fragment recovery. This is described as a healing technique based on the idea that trauma can cause parts of our consciousness to splinter across our timeline. So this method is all about going back and retrieving those lost aspects of yourself to become whole again.
And finally, we have cross-dimensional invocation. Now, this isn't about summoning demons or anything like that. It's described as a set of protocols for creating stable, energetic beacons. The idea is that these beacons are visible across dimensions, which would allow for intentional communication with non-human intelligences.
So after this incredible tour of primordial texts, maps of the multiverse, and these wild practical techniques, you kind of have to ask, what's the ultimate point of all this? What's the grand purpose of this entire system?
And the answer, really, brings us right back to consciousness. The final goal isn't just to know a bunch of stuff or to perform amazing feats. It's about a fundamental transformation of the self. The whole system is designed to lead to practices for ultimate awareness integration, methods for taking that huge, expanded cosmic consciousness and actually bringing it into your daily, everyday life.
Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Is this whole library system a map of an external, objective reality out there? Or is it a blueprint for the hidden potential of human consciousness itself? And maybe that distinction is the greatest mystery of all.